Hello, everyone. My name is Michael O'Neill, and I was asked to be the curator for the winter exhibition this year at the Charlotte Art League. I wanted to give a quick introduction to the show. I'm sorry I couldn't be with all of you there in the gallery, but I'm hoping that we can all meet together again safely sometime really soon. I was asked to make some comments about the show and the selections for the show. And so here it is. So I'm an artist myself. I mainly work in photography and video. And like a lot of you, I've applied to many juried exhibitions before. And it was sort of my experience doing that, sometimes getting in, oftentimes not, that sort of led me to the process that I went through here. One of the things that I did, because times are so tough right now, is I decided to donate my fee for curating the show to provide scholarships for artists who needed it. So several of you should have received scholarships for your entry fee. The other thing that I wanted to make sure that I did was I didn't want to come up with a theme on the fly while I was going through the work. It's human nature to look at a group of things and try to make sense of them. But one of the things I've always thought about curated shows is that if you don't know the theme going in, it's not really fair to the artist to just come up with something on the fly. You might have a wonderful piece, but if it doesn't fit the theme of rebirth, you might not be selected simply because of that element. So what I decided to focus on for this exhibition were two things: craft and attention to your detail, your work, and the ability for me to engage with the work, work that was easy to access, left me asking questions, made me wonder, made me think about things. It was the work that stuck with me after first viewing that I revisited later on, and that led to the selections. So I'm going to go through the selections for the show and give you my comments. And yeah, here we go. So give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen. Hey, there we are. Let's talk about the honorable mentions first. So the first honorable mention that I chose was green construction. I really was intrigued by this piece. I thought that it had a wonderful sense of space, but not just space. It had an amazing sense of time, which is something that I love about photography. So this has a feel to it that I think is really, really interesting. The way it's layered, the way the color is used, the intentionality of it all, I thought was really, really engaging. And it made me want to ask questions about where this came from, and more specifically, how this event that we're looking at is going to be resolved. I think it's a really great piece. The next piece that I selected was also a painting. So this is Blue Ridge Fall Reflections. What I loved about this piece was not just the sense of color, but the sense of light that's present here. Like all the other pieces I selected, there's a real intentionality to it, and I really appreciate how intentional each brush stroke feels. Each one feels distinct and thoughtful and contemplative. And the connection of color and light and time really, really works for me. I really like what's going on in this piece, and I also really like the scale of it. I can tell that it's a smaller scale piece, and that's something that appeals to me as well. That the idea that you can make something that is significant, even if it's not huge. I love the intentionality of that. So third place for the show, Balanced Body. I love this piece. I think it's really, really interesting. The shape of the figure, the connection to art history, the Venus of Willendorf, I think all that really works for me. The color, I really, really appreciate. It feels rooted in a kind of history of domestic presentations of African American characters in movies and cinema, things like that. That's where I feel like this color is connecting, but it also feels very contemporary, the kind of mechanical elements that are in this overlay on the piece, I think, really work, and they not only speak to a kind of historical presentation, but also a contemporary dialogue about the figure, about representation. There's a lot going on here that I think is really, really successful. Second place goes to As Above, So Below, the striped hyena of Babylon. I found this piece really intriguing. The color, again, is really amazing. I love the intentionality and the delicacy and the care that was exhibited with all these brushstrokes. It isn't just because of the underrepresentation of hyenas in contemporary art, but I just love the way that this character is recorded and depicted, and the way that it is so lovingly shared with us. The molecular diagrams on the piece also have me sort of intrigued about what's going on. There isn't an element of this piece that doesn't feel thoughtful, and it leaves me really wanting to know more, which is wonderful. Our first place piece, or the piece that I selected to be first place, is called Now I Know. I love this piece. There are so many things I think that are working really well here. I love the care that the skin tones are rendered with. I love the perspective, the kind of photographic perspective. The fact that we're standing above the figure and looking down, I think is also really significant. And the twist of the figure, or that motion, I think is really intriguing. But the most significant part of this piece is not the knife, it's the expression on the subject's face. I can only imagine if I was stabbed in the back that I would be genuinely surprised, but there's no surprise on the subject's face in this piece. There's a knowing and a horror and a disappointment there that is really palpable and really evident. And I think it's a great piece that can spark some wonderful conversations we really need to have. So I very much appreciate this piece. Both the execution and the subject matter, I think, is excellent. Those are the pieces that I selected. Thank you so much for allowing me to curate the show. It was really wonderful to see all the work. There was a lot of really great stuff there. I'll be doing a few portfolio reviews for people who weren't selected for the show. And please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to talk about work, and I'm looking forward to meeting all of you sometime very soon. Thanks a lot.